I knew something had shifted the moment my son said, "Just tell them you're the contractor." He said it while adjusting his tie in the mirror, not even looking at me. Like it was nothing. Like I hadn't spent 3 years of my life building the foundation of everything he now owned. The drive from Tampa to Miami had taken 8 hours. My truck wasn't what it used to be, and neither was I. 62 years old, bad knees, hands that ached when it rained. But Michael had called, voice bright and eager. "Dad, you have to see the penthouse. It's incredible. We're hosting some investors tonight. You should come." I should have known better. The building was glass and steel, all sharp angles and polished surfaces. A doorman, in a uniform, opened the lobby door. I stood there in my cleanest jeans and a button-down shirt I'd ironed twice, holding a bag with homemade cornbread because that's what fathers do. They show up. They bring food. They try. Michael met me at the elevator on the 42nd floor. He looked good. Expensive suit, hair styled just right. Shoes that probably cost more than my truck payment. He hugged me quickly. The kind of hug you give someone you're obligated to acknowledge. "You made it," he said, already glancing at his watch. "Listen, Dad. I've got these guys coming over in about an hour. Big potential investors. Just, maybe keep it casual. Okay?" "Casual," I repeated. He walked me into the penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. Marble countertops, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was white, or gray, or black. Nothing warm. Nothing that felt like a home where a family lived. "Where's Amanda?" I asked. "She's at the spa. She'll be back later." He took the cornbread from my hands and set it on the counter without looking at it. "Can I get you something to drink? Water? We have some imported sparkling water." I wanted coffee, the kind I made at home, strong and black. But I said, "Water's fine." He poured it into a crystal glass and handed it to me. We stood there in his enormous kitchen, and I realized he didn't know what to say to me. His own father, the man who taught him how to read a blueprint, how to drive a nail straight, how to show up on time and work until the job was done. "The place looks good," I said, because someone had to fill the silence. "Thanks. It's been a lot of work, but we're finally getting the recognition we deserve. This development company, Dad, it's going to be huge. We're about to close on a waterfront project, $20 million deal." I noticed he said we, not I. But I also noticed he didn't say you and I. 3 years ago, Michael had come to me with plans scribbled on napkins and desperation in his eyes. He'd been working for a commercial real estate firm, making decent money but miserable. He wanted to start his own development company. He had vision, he had connections, but he didn't have capital. "I need $60,000, Dad," he'd said, sitting at my kitchen table in the small house I'd bought after his mother died. "I know it's a lot, but I've got investors interested. I just need seed money to get the LLC formed, to buy the first property. I'll pay you back. I promise." $60,000. It was most of what I had left after selling the construction business I'd run for 30 years. After paying off your mother's medical bills. After making sure there was something left for retirement. But he was my son, and I believed in him. I didn't just give him the money. I worked with him. Spent 6 months helping him renovate that first property. A rundown duplex in a neighborhood everyone else had written off. I did the plumbing, fixed the electrical, rebuilt the kitchen. My hands, my knowledge, my time. Michael handled the business side, found the tenants, marketed the property. We sold it for 3 times what we'd paid. That's when everything changed. Now, standing in his penthouse, I looked around at the evidence of success and saw nothing of myself in it. No photos of us working together. No mention of how it started. Just clean lines and expensive taste and my son checking his phone every 30 seconds. The doorbell rang. Michael straightened immediately. "That's them. Just remember what I said, okay? Keep it casual." 3 men walked in. Sharp suits, confident handshakes, the kind of people who measured your worth by your watch and your shoes. Michael transformed. His voice got deeper. His laugh got louder. He became someone I barely recognized. "Gentlemen, welcome. This is Robert, he said, gesturing to me like I was part of the furniture. He's the contractor who helped with some of the renovations here. The contractor, not my father, not my business partner, not even the guy who made this all possible. The contractor. I stood there with my glass of sparkling water and felt something crack inside my chest. One of the men shook my hand. Great work on the finishes. Really top-notch. I could have corrected him. Could have said, actually, I'm his father, and I funded his first deal. But I didn't. I smiled, nodded, played the part Michael had assigned me. They moved to the living room, spreading papers across the glass coffee table, talking numbers and projections. Michael brought out whiskey I knew cost more than my monthly pension. I sat in the corner, watching my son perform, and realized I'd been written out of the story he was telling about himself. After an hour, I excused myself, said I had a long drive back. Michael walked me to the door, relief evident in his eyes. Thanks for coming, Dad. I know it's not exciting for you, all this business talk. I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the boy who used to ride on my shoulders at construction sites, who'd worn a toy hard hat and carried a plastic hammer. That boy was gone. In his place stood a man who'd learned that success meant erasing where you came from. Michael, I said quietly, do you remember what we called the company? When we first started? He hesitated. Yeah, Carter & Son Development. And do you remember whose name is on the LLC paperwork? His expression flickered. Just for a second. We can talk about that later, Dad. I really need to get back to them. Sure, I said. We'll talk later. I drove the first 2 hours in silence. Then I pulled over at a rest stop and opened the glove compartment. Inside was a folder I'd kept since the beginning. The original operating agreement for Carter & Son Development LLC. The one that listed me as majority owner. 60%. Because I'd put in $60,000 in 6 months of labor, while Michael had contributed $40,000 borrowed from Amanda's parents and his business degree. I'd never changed it. Michael had asked me to, once, about a year ago. Said it would be easier for investor relations if he was listed as sole owner. I'd said I'd think about it, then I'd forgotten, or maybe I'd remembered and chosen to do nothing. Now, sitting in a rest stop with trucks rumbling past, I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Tom Patterson. We'd gone to high school together, served in Vietnam together, built our lives in the same small town. Tom, it's Robert. I need you to pull up the LLC paperwork for Carter & Son Development. I need to know exactly what I own and what I can do with it. 3 days later, I sat in Tom's office while he laid it out for me. You own 60%, Tom said, tapping the papers with his pen. Michael owns 40. You can't dissolve the company without him, but you can force a buyout. You can sell your shares. You can transfer them. And here's the important part. Any major business decision requires your approval. What about this waterfront deal he mentioned? Tom pulled up the preliminary paperwork Michael had filed. $20 million acquisition. He'd need your signature to proceed. Did he ask for it? No, I said. He didn't. Tom leaned back in his chair. Robert, what do you want to do here? I thought about that drive home from Miami. Thought about standing in that penthouse being introduced as the contractor. Thought about all the times in the past year when Michael had been too busy to visit, too occupied to call, too focused on his new life to remember where it came from. I want to transfer my shares, I said. Into a trust. For Michael? No. For Emma. Emma. My granddaughter. Michael's daughter from his first marriage. She was 8 years old. Lived with her mother in Orlando. Saw her father twice a month if she was lucky. Michael had moved on to Amanda, to the penthouse, to the life where an 8-year-old daughter didn't fit the image. But Emma and I talked every week. Video calls where she showed me her drawings, told me about school, asked when I was coming to visit. She still called me Pop Pop. She still remembered. Put it in an education trust, I continued. She gets access when she turns 25, or earlier if she needs it for college. Full transfer of my 60% stake in Carter & Son Development. Tom wrote it down. This will essentially give her controlling interest when she's old enough. She'll own the company, not Michael. Good, I said. You know he's going to fight this. Let him try. The paperwork took 2 weeks. During that time, Michael called once, asked if I could send him some old photos from his childhood. Amanda was putting together a display for the Penthouse. Something about family legacy. I told him I'd look for them. I never called back. When the transfer was finalized, Tom had the documents delivered to Michael's office. Not the Penthouse. His actual office in downtown Miami, where his secretary would sign for them and place them on his desk with the rest of his business correspondence. I was in my workshop when he called. I let it ring 4 times before answering. What the hell is this? His voice was sharp, angry. You transferred your shares to Emma? Without even discussing it with me? I thought about it, I said, measuring a piece of wood for a bookshelf I was building. Decided it was the right move. The right move? Dad, do you have any idea what you've just done? I have investors ready to close on the waterfront project. They need to see clean ownership. This makes everything complicated. Then you'll figure it out. You're good at business, remember? That's what you told those investors. This isn't funny. You can't just give away your shares in my company. Our company, I corrected. And actually, I can. Tom checked. It's all legal. Silence on the other end. Then, quieter. Why would you do this? I set down my measuring tape. When's the last time you saw Emma? What does that have to do with anything? Answer the question. I don't know. A few weeks ago. I've been busy. 6 weeks, I said. I asked her. She counts the days, Michael. She's 8 years old, and she counts the days between visits from her father. I have a business to run. I can't just drop everything every weekend. No, but you can host investor parties. You can go to spas with Amanda. You can buy furniture that costs more than most people's cars. That's not fair. You introduced me as the contractor, I said. The words came out harder than I intended. I drove 8 hours to see you. I brought cornbread, your mother's recipe, the one you used to love, and you introduced me as the contractor. He didn't respond. I gave you $60,000 when no one else would. I worked beside you for 6 months. I taught you everything I know about construction, about honest work, about showing up, and somewhere along the way, you decided that wasn't part of the story anymore. Dad, I didn't mean. Emma's going to inherit 60% of Carter and Son Development when she turns 25. Until then, it's in a trust managed by Tom Patterson. You want to make any major business decisions, you'll need approval from the trust. That means you'll need to explain them to me, since I'm the trustee. You can't do this. It's already done. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, exactly. From something else. Something that felt like finally putting down a weight I'd been carrying too long. The waterfront deal fell through. Michael called 2 weeks later to tell me. His voice was flat, defeated. The investors pulled out. They said the ownership structure was too complicated. They're going with another developer. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Are you? Because this is what you wanted, isn't it? To punish me. No, son. I wanted you to remember who you are. I can't run this business with you holding the shares hostage. Then buy me out. Emma's trust. Make an offer. Fair market value. You know I don't have that kind of cash. Then I guess you'll have to work with the situation, I said. Same way I worked with having to introduce myself to your business partners because my own son couldn't admit I was his father. Another silence. Then, I'm sorry. For that. For how I've been. Okay. Is that it? Just, okay? What do you want me to say, Michael? That it's fine? That I understand? I don't. I don't understand how the boy I raised, the one who used to sit with me at job sites eating sandwiches out of a cooler, turned into someone who's ashamed of where he came from. I'm not ashamed. Then what are you? He didn't answer. 6 months passed. Michael and I spoke maybe once a month. Brief, awkward conversations where we both pretended things were normal. Amanda filed for divorce. Apparently, when the money got tight and Michael couldn't maintain the lifestyle she expected, she found someone who could. He moved out of the penthouse and into a modest condo in Coral Gables. Emma called me every Sunday. We talked about school, about her friends, about the books she was reading. She asked about Michael sometimes, but not as often as she used to. She was learning to accept that her father wasn't going to change. One Sunday, she said, "Pop, Pop, Dad told me about the company. The one you gave me." "He did?" "He said when I'm older, I'll own most of it. That it'll be my choice what to do with it." "That's right. Did you do that because you're mad at him?" I thought carefully about how to answer. "No, sweetheart. I did it because I wanted you to have something that your father and I built together. Something real. Something that started with hard work and honest sweat. I wanted you to know that's where you come from." "Okay," she said. "Then, Pop Pop?" "Yeah, thank you." 2 years later, Michael called on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the garden, pulling weeds, when my phone rang. "Dad," he said, "I need to talk to you about something." "I'm listening." "I want to buy out Emma's trust. I've been saving, and I've got investors who are willing to back a clean acquisition. I can offer you fair market value. More than fair, actually." I sat down on the garden bench. "Why now?" "Because I've been trying to build this business for 2 years with my hands tied, and I finally realized something. I don't want to resent you. I don't want to resent Emma. I need to own what's mine, completely. And I need to do it right." "What about Emma's future?" "I'll set up a separate education fund for her. Same amount, different structure. She'll still have her college paid for, her future secured, but the business, that should be mine. I should have earned it." There was something different in his voice, something that sounded like the boy I used to know. "I'll think about it," I said. "Thank you." That weekend, I drove to Orlando to see Emma. We went to her favorite diner and ordered pancakes. She was 10 now, taller, starting to look like her mother. "Your dad wants to buy back the shares I put in your trust," I told her. She drizzled syrup on her pancakes. "What do you think I should do?" "It's not really up to me. The trust is structured so that you have a say in any major decisions once you turn 16, but I can advise as trustee. Do you trust him?" Such a simple question. Such a complicated answer. "I trust that he's trying," I said finally. "I trust that he knows he made mistakes. Whether he's learned from them, I don't know yet." She nodded. "Then we should wait, right? Wait and see if he keeps trying." "Smart kid." "Right," I said. Michael kept calling. Once a week, then once a month. Not pushing, not demanding, just checking in. He started coming to Emma's school events. Not every time, but more often. He'd stand in the back at her choir concerts, wear jeans instead of suits to her softball games. One Saturday, he showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the workshop, sanding a rocking chair I was making for Emma's 11th birthday. "That's beautiful," he said from the doorway. I looked up. He was holding 2 cups of coffee from the diner in town. The good coffee. The kind I actually liked. "Figured you might need a break," he said. We sat on the workshop steps, drinking coffee, not talking. After a while, he said, "I've been going to therapy." "Yeah?" "Amanda leaving, losing the penthouse, having to rebuild. It kind of broke me for a while. I realized I'd been chasing something that didn't make me happy, that I'd hurt the people who actually mattered." I sipped my coffee, waited. "I'm not asking you to sell Emma's shares. Not anymore. I'm just asking if we can work together. Really work together. Like we did at the beginning." "What does that look like?" "I don't know yet. But maybe you could consult on projects. Be involved. Let me learn from you again, instead of pretending I don't need to." I looked at the rocking chair, at the smooth curves I'd spent hours perfecting. "Your mother used to rock you in a chair like this. I made it when we found out she was pregnant. Sold it in a garage sale after she died because I couldn't look at it anymore." "I didn't know that." "There's a lot you don't know. Because you stopped asking." He nodded. "I want to know. I want to ask." We finished our coffee in silence. Then I stood up, brushed sawdust off my jeans and said, "Come back next Saturday. Bring your work boots. We'll go look at that property you've been trying to develop on the south side. The one with foundation issues." "Really?" "Really." But Michael, I turned to face him. "If you ever introduce me as anything other than your father again, We're done. Understood? Understood. He came back the next Saturday, and the Saturday after that. We walked properties, drew up plans, argued about load-bearing walls and plumbing routes. He listened this time, took notes, asked questions. Emma's trust still holds 60% of Carter & Son development. Michael's offer to buy it out is still on the table. But we're not in a hurry. The business is doing well enough. We're building things together the right way this time. Last month, Michael brought Emma to the office, showed her the blueprints for the current project. A small community center in the neighborhood where we'd renovated that first duplex years ago. This is what we do, Emma, he told her. We build things that matter, things that last. Pop taught me that. And someday, if you want, you can be part of it too. She looked at the blueprints, then at me. Did you design this? Pop? Your dad and I did it together. Cool, she said. Then, can I help? Michael smiled, really smiled. Yeah, you can help. And for the first time in years, standing in that small office with my son and granddaughter, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Not as the contractor, not as the forgotten investor, but as a father who'd taught his son a hard lesson about what really matters. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means holding on tight. And sometimes it means keeping the paperwork that proves you were there from the beginning, just in case your child forgets. I still have that original LLC agreement in my desk drawer. I don't need to look at it anymore. But it's there. A reminder that some things can't be erased, no matter how hard you try. And some foundations, once built right, last forever.